live in 10 seconds.
Hello.
Okay, hello. So we are live now. Welcome to the 9th of November. A very, very dedicated day on Germany. And thanks a lot to join the European session on the Global Social Business Summit. We have beautiful friends with us. We have great performers on social business, practitioners and new kids on the blocks, new inspiration for all of us. And I'm really happy to share it. And the opening words is done by Christina Jaeger. Christina, can you hear us?
I can hear you very well. Hi, Hans, everyone.
Christina, it's your floor. Congratulations to your Yunus Environment Hub. Next to Jean, you really established your own ship. You crossed around all circular economic seas, what's possible. And super nice, and you're here and do the opening for us.
Thank you so much, Hans. Thank you so much for the invitation and for having me today. Welcome everyone to this to the European Social Business Forum. As Hans mentioned, my name is Christina Jaeger and I'm the Managing Director of Yunus Environment Hub. And I was invited to provide some opening remarks since this forum today focuses on circular economy and how digitalization can play an important role for the transition to a circular economy, and in that context, how social businesses and human-centered innovations can boost and accelerate that transition. If we want to fix the climate, we need to transform the economy. We had discussed this also yesterday at the Climate Action Planetary, and not only in the way how our economy is powered. The transition to renewable energy remains a central pillar of the pathway to a low carbon system, but it's only half the story. 45% of global greenhouse gas emissions come from the way we make and use products and food. And in order to address these emissions, a systemic approach to redefining value creation has to be adopted. And that need to rely on the three fundamental pillars or principles of a circular economy, which are eliminating waste, circulating materials and products, and regenerating nature. And while the circular economy is a key framework to transform our wasteful and destructive linear economy, the social business concept is an accelerator to transition to net carbon zero, as well as a circular economy. The transition to a circular economy, on the one hand side, will require significant investments. And these cannot come from social business entrepreneurs. This requires investments from the private and from the public sector, so that once this infrastructure has been laid out, social innovations can be built upon them. And technology will play an extremely important role here. We need to know where the materials came from and where they are going to in order to develop circular solutions. And human-centered design will be very important to ensure a socially inclusive transition to a circular economy. The transition means that a lot of jobs in the old economy will be lost. And social business can play an important role there in the educational sector, not only at school level, but also for lifelong learning and training new skills that are required in a circular economy. And my last message that I want to share is that all of this will require collective impact. It cannot be done in isolation. We need more coalitions, partnerships, consortia of different actors working together. And this forum is an excellent start for this. and wish us all very fruitful discussions today and looking forward to the outcomes of the session. Thank you very much. Back to you, Hans.
Thank you, Christina. Beautiful, precisely analyze about where we are. And as we all know, we went from crisis to crisis to crisis to crisis. And now we are in a deep disaster and in a catastrophe because we didn't master our crisis. I'm very sure socio-economic and will be a step, a guide out, a gate out of this disaster, will be not probably the last game, because we definitely have to be the next step, but socio-economic is something that we have to do now in such a high focus. And I congratulate you once again to your whole team, to everything what you did during the crisis, building factories, going out in the world, making things happen. So you're not only a very good, precisely analyst, you are also a super doer, and congratulations with this. The man who was always a doer and not an intellectual person only is the man who everything did with his own hands, starting to give the first microfinance credits and inspire us to do this day. I have a very big relation to the 9th of November. And we went together on the 20 years anniversary, on the 25 years anniversary, on the 30 years anniversary. Every time Professor Yunus was the guest of honor on the 9th of November. And now this 9th of November becomes a festival of freedom every 5 years. And he did a masterpiece behind it. And he did it with Moritz van Dümen, with us as a friend, to remember us on the 9th of November. This day have a special purpose. And it's really also a remarkable day for the whole world to don't give up. If we live in a circumstance now we live today, when you think nothing can help you, then the gate opens and we find a way out. And thanks once again, Professor Yunus, to share this morning with us. You know, I should say hello from Moritz. He had Corona. He is very sick still, and he would be with us, of course, the whole day. He is now suffering under this pandemic, and so we should remember. And let's see what social business and what also your experience was on the 9th of November, what it means for you, and why social business, a social conscience-driven society, drives you so hard since you're 15 years old, and you never give up, and you still do it like a 15-year-old boy and say, let's discover the next stuff. Professor Yunus, please, we wait for your keynote.
Thank you, Hans. Thank you, Hans, for reminding me about the November 9th and all the time that I have been there. So I'm missing that occasion. I should have been in Berlin right now on November 9th. This is what I enjoyed so much doing that. So this is, let's celebrate and remember what it means, how the transformation has come out of November 9th, global transformation. So this November 9th is also a very significant day for all of us in the context of the continuation of this planet. The planet will exist, or planet will come to an end for so far as human beings are concerned. So that's just something that we have to resolve in a day like this. I'm very grateful to you, Hans, and also all the friends in Europe who assembled today. All the things that we have been doing in Bangladesh and neighboring countries. It took a big jump when we got connected with you, and suddenly we had friends from many European companies, organizations, and the visibility of social business and so on happened. And the possibilities of taking it to much higher level of understanding globally started rolling out when our contact with Europe began. And as a result, Creative Lab was created and led the way. If somebody, you talk about digital diary, if somebody writes another diary for GCL, there are lots and lots of stories to tell in GCL. It's not just one little organization with few people. It's an enormous impact that it has made in a global context, and it will continue to make. So this is something that we are very, very grateful for you taking leadership. I see Enrico also, he has been taking his work with his university and with the European Union and continuously pursuing this despite all the ups and downs in the social business front. And today it becomes more and more important because of the global warming issue that we are discussing. And that keeps coming, and Christina has just mentioned about that. Many issues are related to that. And I'm wondering if somebody gave me an option that the world will cease to exist. Only way the world and people can survive if all people in the world go back to the caves. If they go back to the caves, only that way the world can be saved. Otherwise, it's your choice. This is the end of it. Say goodbye. And I say, I will enthusiastically go back to the cave. I will not wait for the make sure that we enjoy our life and so on and so forth. We rather save ourselves by going back to the caves and work again, and it will be very fast recovery because we already have all the knowledge. Simply we abandoned the lifestyle and so on for a while. We went back and redesigned and come back again. So today, when whenever global warming issue comes, climate issue comes, we're always busy, every single leader of the world, busy trying to protect their economy. We protect our economy and then let us know what we can do about it. I said, that doesn't sound right. You don't understand the crisis that we are facing. It's a disaster that we are facing. It's not protect this. If you protect this, it's an easy way to destroy ourselves because this is what created the problem in the first place. If you're protecting your business, you're protecting your system of ways of living, then global warming is not going anywhere. So that's a non-start to begin with. So this is the issue that when we talk in one sense, we want to stop global warming. At the same time, we say we must protect our business, our lifestyle, our everything has to be protected. Then tell us what we should do. You should do nothing. Just go and blow yourself up. That's the only thing you can do. Because it doesn't go together. We created a civilization which is self-destructive. And it's coming to that self-destruction. That's simple as that. That's the way I understand it. When Guterres, UN Secretary General, was addressing the COP26, he was saying that we are digging our own graves. He's telling the story that this is what the reality is. We're digging our graves. And because of our obsession with fossil fuel and our addiction to our money, these are the two things, addiction and obsession. If you continue with this, we are not going anywhere at all. So we have to reinvent ourselves and do it quickly. And that's the only way we can survive on this planet. And that's where our efforts come. We give an alternative scenario what can be done. We have created a civilization which is based on profit maximization. That's the essence of the entire civilization. And I keep repeating to the young people saying, look, we are on a spaceship and going on the spaceship. Within this spaceship, everybody's busy in the casino, trying to make money, fun, enjoy themselves, to serve themselves. And bulk of the population are ignored, have no place in the spaceship. They're squeezed out. And the guys who are on the table, they're making all the fun, all the things and so on. What garbage they create, what wastage they make, couldn't care less, they throw it out. And you ask if this spaceship has any pilot in it. I said, my answer is there is no pilot. They're not worried about pilot. They just want to enjoy and float and so on. And they think it will be eternity, and that float will go on. And there is no navigators in this spaceship. Nobody has a flight plan in this spaceship because they say the reality is the casino part, not the rest of it. So I said, this is the situation. And now we are going to crash. And they said, oh, no, don't worry. In the meantime, our job will be done. We could continue. They are not worrying about it. They will fix, world will fix itself. World doesn't fix itself. We are destroying it. It doesn't have a fixation mechanism. So there is no way to do that. So this is the kind of civilization that we built. The only way of survival is to just a transition from this civilization to a new civilization. If this civilization is built on profit maximization, the new civilization has to be a civilization built on zero profit. That's the only way you can do that. And then the world of 3 zeros that we talk about, can bring that world of 3 zeros. It's possible only by transition from civilization now and civilization tomorrow. That's the transition. It's not a question of save everything and then tell us what we should do. We are talking about the fossil fuel all the time. That fossil fuel is a guilty party, destroying everything. We make speeches in COP26 and go back and dish out all the subsidy to fossil fuel industry. We make speeches and banks pour in money to the fossil fuel industry. The CEO of the bank just spoke at the COP26 and then come back and sign an agreement with some fossil fuel company, put some money. So this is the kind of game that we are playing with ourselves. This is no escape route for that. So I said we don't have much chance. We have to go to the young people who are speaking out to tell them, look, you be the pilots of this spaceship. This is those seats are empty. You become the pilot and take us where you want to go, decide. And you become the navigators of this spaceship and make your flight plans and tell us where you want to go. This is your planet because you are the one inheriting this very soon. This will be your planet. So you don't have to have the casinos and all that anymore. You decide what you want. That's the direction that you want to go. So that's why we get to the YSBC, the universities, all the universities that work with, all the faculty members, all the teachers with the university to design those kind of planet that we want to have to make us in the direction that we want to go and tell the young people that we have not much time left. And I'm trying to explain that this, as I say, November 9, this particular time that COVID-26 week that we have spent is the most critical time to make decisions. And this year, 2021 to 2022, let's take it 1 year. This 1 year is the most critical year for the entire humanity. This is a make or break time. Either we make hard decisions, not the soft decisions that someday we'll do. It's not someday, it has to be today. I said, it's like a plane taking off. You have to put all the thrust in the engine to create enough power so that you can lift yourself from the ground and head for the sky. So this is the time to mobilize that thrust. It's not about, okay, someday we'll get there. Someday we'll not get there until we mobilize the thrust so that we can push ourselves and be airborne. And still we need lots of thrust while we are airborne until we go to the altitude where we can go the cruising speed. So we have to get to the right altitude and then we have the cruising speed. So if you are already near 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is IPCC is saying it's only a few years left, 10 years left to get there. Before we there, we have to mobilize that thrust to make sure we push that 1.5 further. We are today near 1.2 and 1.5 is coming up. So we don't want to make it come up as it is predicted at 2030. We said we'll cruise it to make it happen at the end of the century. Nothing to do with above 1.5 within that century. That's the hard decision that we have to take. There is no escape route. So this is our task to make sure we understand the task and mobilize ourselves and make people understand. And we have the tools, we know how to get there, how to transit from this civilization to the next civilization. That's where the social business comes. That's where the entrepreneurship comes. That's where all the things that we have created examples of are coming. So it's not that we're not moving in an empty space. We already have accumulated lots of understanding and knowledge, and to transit from one civilization, which is self-destructive civilization, to move into the other direction. So that's the task we have in front of us, and make this decade and make this year the most critical year in the human history. Because otherwise, if you do not use this decade and this particular year within the decade, we have very difficult time ahead of us. So that's a message that we want to pass on to everybody and make sure that we work for it. Thank you, Hans, for sharing. Let me share my thoughts with you, all of you.
Thank you, Professor Yunus. And I think we're all deeply touched by your words. And I think it's the right words for the 9th of November. You know, the 9th of November was not only Gloria and falling the fall, it was also a disaster. And when we see, and when my mother always told me, if the gate of hell opens, you know, like it was for her always on the Nazi time, it was the gate of hell. When the gate of hell opens you as a child, she always told us as the children, take a flower, go in the hell, put the flower in the hell, and come back. So don't be afraid about the hell, but that's what looks to us at the moment on the plastic oceans, what it looks to us on environment catastrophe, on the biodiversity disaster, how we mess it up. When we see how the jungle is burning, how the Amazon is burning, when we see what we do to the actual stats in the last decade, the 9th of November should also remember us in these moments, what we are created by human, what's unnecessary disasters and catastrophes. The nature do it by his own alone, and we should overcome it. And this is where I'm really thankful to you, Professor Yunus, and pass over to Professor Meynhardt. With the work what we did together, you opened me the gate to the university, a gate between hell and heaven, a gate where people can go through and analyze very precisely what is not. Analyze it, make it in a science way. So 12 years after, when you show me the first university, Professor Yunus, and I have the good luck to work now very closely with the Technical University in Munich, with the Ludwig Maximilian University. And then I meet a friend in Leipzig. He is a very joyful scientist, but have a big purpose. And you can see then the third gate between hell and heaven, the university is a science world. You go through, you can do it with joy. And that's why I invite also Professor Meynhardt. He is a great researcher, a good analyst, and we listen to your words and makes the bridge to Professor Yunus, makes the bridge to the 9th of November. Thanks you are here, Professor Meynhardt.
Thank you, Hans. Well, it's not easy to continue after Professor Yunus' words. I'm deeply touched, Hans, as you said, and I would love to listen more and just shut up and listen to Professor Yunus' further remarks. But my task is now to take this further or to reflect a little bit upon and relate it maybe a bit to our work here at Leipzig Credit School of Management, which is one of the oldest in Germany, and we were kind of rejuvenated after unification. Without November 9th in 1989, this school would not exist because in former times it was closed, and we kind of reopened it in the late 90s. And I want a couple of points I want to make is, first is, as a psychologist, I deeply believe that as people need kind of a deficit motivation to overcome certain problems, but they all need a positive notion, a positive note. On a positive note, a purpose could be something we are attracted to because we want it, because it contributes to something bigger than ourselves. The idea of purpose, as I see it, transcends our individual gain thinking towards something which lies beyond our individual gardening, so to speak. And when we started here with the purpose notion to play around and try to translate it into a European context, we felt that what the Americans did with kind of introducing the purpose notion, Silicon Valley, Mark Zuckerberg and the others, maybe it's a woke capitalist attitude to just shy away from their typical normal profit-making engine. On the other hand, I came to say even a lip service is a service, and all that you could say it's cheap talk by Larry Fink and others. But the narrative changed and the discussion changes a lot. And we try to find the spots, not just the sour spots, but all the sweet spots to link into our students' mindset and to relate to leadership ideas. I want to share a couple of reflections which come to my mind, in particular in thinking back on November 9th, 1989, when I was 17 in East Germany. And when I look back on this historical date, of course, there are a couple of individual reflections that where the world history met individual history. And what I came to conclude for myself, I could describe it with the notion or distinction of between kairos. Chronos, this idea time flows, we experience time, we pursue our lives. It's rather quantitative, it's kind of past and future related. But then there are points in life, and maybe November 9th was such a day where there was a kairos, a very moment of chances, of opportunities, when we felt it's possible. And this very experience that things are possible was my personal strong takeaway, to know even in dark times it's possible. And this idea of things can change, and they do change, and history is never ending. And Fukuyama nowadays even admits he was wrong. There's never an end of history. You could say from history you can learn that from history you cannot learn anything, because history is unpredictable. There's no final goal of history, neither communism or any other picture in the Christian or any other religion ideal state moment possible. But if it's true, if history is open, and if you want to maintain our open societies, at least what Popper called open society, the idea of purpose to me is that it's attractive because it somehow collapses our individual postmodern uncertainty of right or wrong. There's no longer a single North Star after the Iron Curtain was demolished. There was no longer the system fight, but there's another fight we have to take up, and this is what Professor Yunus said. Of course, nature can live without us. Nature doesn't need us. We need nature, and therefore to translate into, for example, students' minds that it's worthwhile to engage for the common good, to transcend one's individual gain, to make profit instrumental for something bigger than myself. This is a challenge we face. And the idea of kairos and chronos to me is something which also relates to one of my giants, which is Peter Drucker, when he talked about continuity and change. He kept saying that any change effort also needs some stability and continuity on the other hand. That's why November 9th is also a day of joyful memories. As I said, yes, we can. Things are possible, what is achievable, but also what has already been achieved. That's why, looking at our history of civilization, I think we achieved a lot. Humankind did achieve in terms of human rights, in terms of a number of freedom rights, a lot of things. That's why the balance sheet of gains and losses might be mixed, and any type of diagnostics of our times might be subject to failure and unserious speculation. But if it's true what Professor Yunus said, that we only have 10 years time, and the facts speak to it, it's really a sense of urgency or mobilization necessary. And as I feel in the lecture halls, it's even not so easy to mobilize young students. Our research shows the common good consciousness, or the concern that the common good is not being taken care of properly, is rising with age. It's simply not true to our data, at least in Germany and Switzerland, that the majority is the young people calling for change. It's the older people are concerned with the common good. It's not the young one. Our data show we have 10,000, 12,000 people, and one can explain it by saying, well, the older you are, the more mature you get, you are closer to death than to birth. You know what to lose. You have seen many, many more things than the young people. But if we pretend to assume that the young people are already there, we should not forget the power of the elderly. And our data show that the older you are, at least in Germany and Switzerland, the more you are concerned that the common good is not being taken care of properly. And this might be not a dilemma, but at least it's something we address in the lecture hall, how to make young people aware, which are not already in this mind state or this mind shift, only, I mean, it's a business school. They want to become entrepreneurs, and we support it by what we call a public value award for startups. We celebrate startups, for example, bringing solar energy to Africa. Africa Green Tech was this year's winner. And we try to give good examples for students to make them aware what's at risk or what's also possible. And this idea, we can make it if we try, might be a bit too American. Europeans are more concerned with structures, processes, histories, past dependencies, but to find the right balance for young people, not just to kind of force them or instill anxiety, but also address the positive motivations of the human being. This is my current challenge, or our current challenge at our faculty. And we translate it into what we call the light leadership model, where we related purpose to entrepreneurial spirit, responsibility and effectiveness. And we say, and we argue very much like Drucker, only if you find a balance between those different forces, you can unleash the power of leadership in terms of really engaging for the common good, whatever it means, the common good. It's, of course, historically depending on changes, but there are some universal basic needs to be addressed, and we should not shy away the common good discussion in terms of measuring how entrepreneurs, how companies contribute to the common good. And if we measure it in Germany, in Switzerland, and Japan, we see time and again, the leader in terms of common good contributions are firefighters. The firefighters are always ranked first, and companies like Facebook or Marlboro or even Deutsche Bank are last. And we see the drivers of the common good in those countries mentioned are public sector. It's the public sector. It's not the private sector. And the picture I'm drawing is not us and them, private against public, but rather to find new ways. I would even call it private-public partnership 2.0 after pandemics. There might be chances that we find new alliances between private and public institutions, be it in the healthcare system in particular, to be innovative in addressing those challenges ahead. And my main point maybe, and this is where I also want to contribute to this discussion, I feel next years to come, in order to solve the crisis Professor Yunus described and face the challenges, it's ultimately property rights. Let's talk about property rights. To me, this is, you could say it's a quite Marxist point of view. I think you don't need to be a Marxist to argue that property rights are a key. As long as property rights are so unevenly distributed, and the pandemics did show that the discrepancy even increased, we lower our chances. However, I'm helpless to say how to change it. It's definitely not by elections, definitely not by democratic procedures in terms of electing different parties. I'm not expecting unrests across the globe, social unrest. We see it somewhere, some other place, but not in a global a global level. Without tackling property rights, we won't be able to face the climate crisis, because climate change is definitely also a social question. The social question is not just ecological, it's a deeply moral question, and the economy is somehow underestimated if we do not see their growth engine, innovation type, whatsoever, drive. Maybe call it profits. And I'm prepared to argue, even if they make profits, they can have insane profits in a way, as long as they contribute to the common good. And for example, develop and innovate a vaccine against COVID-19, innovate and get rich if they are able to clean our oceans. Let's make use of the advantages of capitalism. That's my point of view, and find new ways of distributing property rights for the common good. These are my burning questions in my mind, next to teaching, next to philosophy, and making people aware of their blind spots in their life and try their consumption behavior, and talking about nudging and this kind of thing. It boils down to me to this question, how to mobilize forces for a more broader variety of property rights. This is where I want to close. This is where I want to also stop my reflections on November 9th, which is maybe for the Germans 3 or 4 times the day in history. What I take away from November 9th is yes, it's possible. And this is also a power engine for myself in the dark to get up in the morning and say, well, it's possible. I saw it. I was 17 and I saw it. I will transfer it to my children, maybe also grandchildren one day. This experience, nobody can take away from me, that things are possible. And maybe this is always November 9th, what I remember most when I entered this day. And that's why I'm rather positive that we can make it. We can make it. Thank you. Thank you a lot.
Timo, thank you so much. I call you from now on Timo, and official always Professor Meynhardt.
Yes,
but
yes.
I do like to have Timo in the science and not only see the professor. So that's always what the first time you show it to me, and today you show it to me. And the same is my co-host, Enrico. You know, thanks you do the co-host with me. I have to tell this because you're also on the university 11 years ago. You showed me around, and what I really was impressed, I was more looking for business and how we can do social business and drive business. And you showed me, Hans, relax. We analyzed everything what's going on. You know, not only not only what is business. I want to see everything. I want to see the whole picture. And you analyze 60 great social institutions and stuff like this. So you did a great work from the very beginning on. And thanks a lot to do the co-hosting for me. It's your time.
Thank you, Hans, for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy, of course, to be here with all of you. I have the very hard task to take some takeaways from what Professor Yunus and Professor Meynhardt talked about, and actually there is a very many topics that have been addressed. But I think that, I mean, from Professor Yunus' speech, what comes out is the urgency of changing our perspective and transitioning as a civilization. You know, I was very impressed by the article from Professor Yunus that said the pandemic was an opportunity. Everyone was going mad about the pandemic, the problems, and actually Professor Yunus was able to find also the opportunity in the problem, the bigger problem. And that relates that moment of crisis when the structures and institutions kind of fail, or other institutions prevail, like, for example, the public sector that Professor Timo was referring to. We can change our perspective and change how we organize the economy and so on. So we had this opportunity, we still have, but I'm afraid in some cases that we are going back to the business as usual, as far as I'm seeing the businesses and so on. Now we have a lot of discussions about environment. Many people are not happy how these discussions are going. And here I connect to what Professor Meynhardt was saying of the purpose and letting people unite. I really would say one of the takeaways from Professor Meynhardt's speech for me is the word uniting. You know, we have to unite the young and the old. We don't have to just focus on the young people because they're the future. Yes, they are, but it's not that because you're young, you're much more environmentally conscious or pro-social, you have pro-social behaviors. You know, there is a lot of literature that tells us that's not the case, even though young people have a lot of power because they have more time. So this is the real power, you know, of young people, which, by the way, they don't even have really, because if we have the 10 years deadline, actually, we have to move fast, and then we have to move fast as a civilization, you know. So it's the businesses, the public sector. So we were talking about public-private partnership, but it's the young, the old, I would say the rich and the poor, even though we know that rich, and here is we connect to the redistribution of capital. One thing that Professor Yunus, for example, said in the article was that we have this huge wealth concentration that is actually not good for civilization in general, you know, and this is connected to what also Timo was saying. And we have to redesign everything. And the more we study the systems, Hans was referring that we like to analyze. Yes, we like to analyze. And the more we analyze, the more we see that things are interconnected. And you can't just act in the finance sector, you just can't act in the mobility, you just can't act at the public sector. It has to be really everyone. So purpose, in this sense, as unification, and not only of countries, but of people, could be the way. And I'm very actually curious to see, since we have a very composite panel, Hans, what the other speaker will tell, because they come from very different backgrounds. So I want to hear, I'm curious to hear what they will say about this.
Enrico, thank you so much. And I think what's an exciting 9th of November in the morning, that's what I say in the beginning, we record everything, we will write it down. I think this is also an important way. Now I have the great honor and pleasure to introduce you a great trio. So we have now first Antonella, then Claudia, and then Nari. I welcome you first personally, and then I welcome you officially. So I start with Antonella. So Antonella, thanks a lot you take the time with us. Let me introduce you from my personal side. Descartes, you are a system thinker, a system analyzer. With Boston Consulting, you really shape a lot of the business as it is today in Germany with your colleagues and your team. This is what Boston Consulting did. You did a big move into the politics. You take care in Austria for the government. You are now the head of the strategy office in Austria since a couple of years. You do it with a great commitment to make the great art of provocants. You are seeing the tired systems needs provocants. And we have two questions for you. The one is, how do you think government should prioritize technology and innovation in a way that encourages sustainability, and I would add on regeneratives? What are the technology innovation in Europe that they can share with the low-income countries for a global sustainable economic, and add on from my side, biodiversity? And we'd like to hear to your inspiration. And thanks you have the time for us, Antonella. Your microphone is not unmuted yet.
Okay, now it should work. Thank you very much, Hans. And can you hear me now?
Super.
Does it work now?
Absolutely.
So thank you very much, Hans, for inviting me, and Professor Yunus for so much inspiration, and also Professor Meynhardt. I mean, just in thanking you, let me just, and before going to the concrete questions, let me say that you redefined my concept of 9/11 in the sense that it's the moment of really finding the bridge between hell and heaven, and constructing the bridge, in really starting to construct the bridge, not only thinking of it. And I like the idea, and seeing this date as day of opportunity for all, for changes to the better and for a higher social purpose. So thank you very much for having enriched so much this definition of day for the future. And building on what Professor Yunus and also Professor Meynhardt said, I do believe strongly, and you see it from my CV, in the power of public-private solutions. I worked for a long time, and you can say, Hans, I worked at conceiving the hell, because I worked in business, but I hope that I did it in a very mindful way. So I contributed certainly also to some concept of circularity and of sort of social balance in my consulting. But clearly I worked more on the I would say, on the concept of the past. And we need now to put the same strategic thinking on conceiving the future. And if we think about conceiving the future, it, as also Professor Meynhardt said before, it is about really a strong cooperation between the public and private sectors, and not just doing the blame game. You know, what are you not doing and what you should doing, and we can only do it together. And also, I think that we need to see that we have a dramatic and radical shift that we need to do. And now the question is, how do we manage to do this radical shift? And I'll come to the technology in a second, but let me just build on something that Professor Meynhardt said about the property rights, and also what Professor Yunus said. If we were in the cave, if we had to go back to the cave, and we have seen that with COVID, we could put a stop button for the whole civilization from one day to the other, and everything stopped. And we could do the same thing, and then we would have a real difference. We have the total knowledge that we have accumulated so far. And if we look at the total knowledge we have accumulated so far, and if we look at a Nobel Prize laureate of 2009, Elinor Ostrom, she redefined how to deal with the tragedy of the commons. And what I really do not understand, that we do not build on her thinking, because what she said was really defining. You know, she wrote about the governing of the commons, not with top-down regulation or just privatization, but with the collective action, redefining a way to cope with the commons and protect the commons in a collective action. And I think that is what we need to do today. So I really encourage everybody to go back and read what Elinor Ostrom wrote, because I think that it's a seminal work that she did, and that should guide us in what we're doing. And at the same time, also think about Schumpeter's creative destruction, and think how can we sort of reduce and destruct the old and recreate, as Professor Yunus said, the new planet that we want to go to with the spaceship. And I think that is what we need to have in mind. And with this in mind, the question is, what can government do to create this new, to help create this new part? And I think the technology piece is absolutely essential. And let me give you a couple of examples of what we have been doing, at least in Austria. I mean, just practical example, because I said today should not be just a day of thinking the new bridge. It's starting to construct the bridge between hell and heaven. So to construct the bridge, you need investment, you need money. And what we did was to introduce, I mean, we come to pretty banal things, but that's what we're talking about. It's really concrete actions, is to introduce a investment incentive, to double the investment incentive, so the tax deductible part of investments that are devoted to digitalization and to climate change, and particularly the combination of the two. Why? Because we think that digital solutions very often are also very helpful to go for important technological and sustainability solutions. So both are supported, and the sustainability oriented solutions and investments are supported with twice an investment support of 14%. And that has just generated an additional investment in the first 2 years of 50 billion in Austria, which is a small country. As we know, it's a tenth of Germany. So we could certainly mobilize significantly more money and significantly more action in this direction. And what came out of this? I mean, what do companies do then with these investments, which is tax deductible and therefore supported by government? They do, for example, major investment in conservation, major investment in alternative fuels, major investment in moving to a hydrogen-based economy. So it's all investments that they otherwise would probably not do because of the risk factor. And so we are helping to de-risk the issue. And what it is also happening with this is that we are trying to take down the green premium. What do I mean by that? The green premium is the added cost that you have today if you use certain technologies which are more expensive, still more expensive because they are not at scale. Take take solar, for example, or wind. It's now decreasing in price, but it's still more expensive than fossil because we do not have the right CO2 pricing. As long as we have a green premium, so green energy is more expensive than the rest, we will not have a natural behavior in this direction. So what the government needs to do is to help take down this green premium by creating incentives to invest in the right direction. But that's not the only thing that one should do. Of course, the government needs also to support right away scientific research in this direction, and particularly the going from research to innovation, just starting businesses based on research. So a fund oriented to that is key. And there we have the European Horizon program, which is really supporting this type of investment. So these are the two areas where government can go in this direction. I think this is one part of it. The second question that you had is about how can we do in innovation that we can share also with low-income countries for a global, really global sustainable economy. And there, I think that we can do a lot on reverse innovation. And there in digital health, we have a lot of opportunities where we do the innovation with the users and do significantly more affordable and scalable innovation, cheaper innovation. And I give you an example. You know, there is an Austrian company coming from Vorarlberg, which is, you know, at the border to Switzerland and Germany, which is called Helios. And Helios developed a water sanitization solution, which is totally affordable. And this is something that was developed in Africa and is now rolled out across the world. So this is technology from Europe and also the research from Europe with the users in Africa. And by doing that, by combining I would say, really the wisdom of the crowd in the real sense and the wisdom of different situations, a fantastic solution was created. And then, you know, what government can do, I mean, this was all private. What government can do is to scale it up, to help scale it up. And so just let me add, you know, in the sense of scaling up, and there I'm very thankful to you, Hans, and also to Professor Yunus. We created the Kofi Annan Award for Innovation for Africa, which we're starting today and opening up for calls to make sure that these great innovations that are developed, particularly from Africa, are supported from Europe to be scaled up in a better way. And so I'm really happy that you are supporting this, that Professor Yunus is part of the jury. I'm sure that with all this wisdom and intelligence, we can spot these good combinations of great application knowledge and great scientific knowledge in the best way. And I think that is sort of part of building the bridge and concrete action. Let me stop here, Hans.
Thank you, Antonella. Thank you. No, it's so much to make the bridge now to the next speaker, but let me first for us, for the social business community, explain. Helios had just beat the CEO last week in Vienna, and it's a pure social business, and it's really exciting. It just exists like, I need 600 social businesses around Vienna just created postgrad from the social business summits 2010 and 2011. I had to talk with Andreas Streichl. He created the second bank. So we did an enormous job in Austria. We was not aware at all, but the same you do in Czechia, the same you inspire a lot of neighbors, and you do a lot of social business. Now, next year we want to come to Vienna or to Turin. And the good thing is, I know your heart by the Italians, and you can help us to do it in Italia and to do it in Vienna. So this is great. And that brings me to Claudia. Claudia, super nice that you're here. And I know you are our own counterculture inside BNP Paribas. I met you 5 years ago. We had a big debate. And from this debate on, like you only can do it with a real European talk between a German Bavarian guy and an Italian emotion about really show you're a European thinker, you want to change something with European leading banks, you want to take the European spirit all over the world, and you did it with your engagement. We just saw the investment of BNP Paribas grows by 2 billion euros in microfinance and social business and social entrepreneurship. Congratulations for this gate to open it. I think with Antonella and with others, we can create the next billion. We need billions in social business, that's clear. It's not anymore about millions. We need the big investment as well. My team also prepared 2 questions for you. I be precisely on this, to don't ignore the great work of my team, and thanks a lot to the Grameen Creative Lab to prepare all this. So the questions to you is, how can social business contribute to a circular and sustainability economic, and I add on, biodiversity for Europe? What are the innovation and the relevance of circular financing economic and financial inclusive economics to help European transition to a circular, climate neutral, or even, I add on, positive and sustainability economic? Claudia, we are happy to listen to you.
Thank you, Hans. And thanks. I'm so overwhelmed by having also the Professor Yunus with us in this talk. So I mean, first of all, thanks everybody to be here. And well, you were talking about our talk, and I believe there are no coincidence in the life. It was just an incredible moment that helped us to foster a better society when we met 5 years ago, and I'm still so grateful for that meeting, because I believe it's a piece of the things that are changing our missions all over. You were also talking about this 2 billion support, like loans and investment to social businesses, social enterprises, microfinance. We are now achieving 2.2 billion. Yeah. So we're even, so it's even more. And I believe now it's really done in the right way. I mean, it's really going ahead, and most of the persons in the companies understand the concepts, understand what we want to do and where we want to go. You've always been, the Professor Yunus was talking about the social conscious driven society, and this is so important. And for us, it's also social. We want to create a social conscious driven company too. This is also why we created, and we had already, but we wrote a mission for BNP Paribas in 2020, and a purpose of BNP Paribas. And we said in our mission, we want to have a positive impact on all our stakeholders. So our customers, our employees, our shareholders, and the company as a whole and the society as a whole. And on a purpose, we want to be the world leader or a world leader in sustainable finance. We want to be on the service of our clients. We want to have a mission to contribute to a responsible, sustainable growth. And we want to adopt the social and the environmental goals of the SDGs, of the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN through their standards. So it's incredible that we, such a group like us, where we are 200,000 employees in 70 countries, you know. So we achieved to have that rough written on marble. And this then goes through and embeds all the group. And of course, it's too slow for sure. I mean, for sure we're not perfect, but at least we are working on this since now on several topics on the energy transition since 2012, on social businesses since 2014, and now also on providing this mission all over since 2020. And this goes also with an employee value proposition and with a message to our talents, our leader for change. For instance, we're very, very glad of this coalition that we formed with the Gremlin Creative Lab, and you're training each year several of our leaders for tomorrow into the concept of social business, because the idea behind that is that these social businesses are really changing the world. Large companies, what can they do? They are not going to become social business, but they can embed the concept of social businesses into our mentality, and then working on that and changing the way to do and to see the things. If I go into your specific questions, then for sure we have created several hubs of expertise in all the sectors you were mentioning, in the financial inclusion, in the circular economy, and in the social businesses, of course, and in whatever is going to create a social innovation. If I just mention some of those examples of what we try to do, it's I think it's interesting what we do on the field of financial inclusion, because there's so much to do, and in Europe we have several actors of financial inclusion which are incredibly positive in the way they do. I'm thinking, and they are creating innovation day by day. When I think of credit, which is an MFI, microfinance institutions in the Netherlands, and they digitalized all their activities, and so to achieve a larger public and to include more people and more companies. Or if I think about Permicro in Italy, who is working aside the second generation of migrants and provides loan to this population, which is first or second generation, which are really not yet bankable, with the purpose of having them going out from financial exclusion and having them bankable. And they collaborate with us and with so many other banks in Italy by trying to take the clients which are not able to be bankable and then creating this field with them. When I see about social innovation, there are so much things that are being done, and now we need to scale them up. I'm thinking about the impact funds. Impact funds are bringing capital to social enterprises, to social business, and to tech for good, and to all those kind of companies that really have embedded into their nature the fact of changing the future, of changing into the positive way. And so I'm thinking like the Solar Impulse Foundation, which is Solar Impulse. It's a company who did a tour of the world without using any carbon fossil fuel, and they did. They looked for 1,000 projects that are really changing the environment and working to energy transition. And then we have now making cooperation with Solar Impulse Foundation, and we are doing an impact fund where we are going to invest equity for 100 million euro into the companies that they've been selecting. If I think about other impact funds, I think also about the impact fund that we created with the European Investment Fund, where we're going to invest in the social impact bonds, environmental impact bonds, or other impact bonds that are built in the European area. When I think about social impact bonds, we know those social impact bonds, which are those small but incredibly innovative products whereby the investors are repaid only if the impact is achieved, only if the environmental impact or social impact is achieved. And those impact bonds now in France, they are being developed also in the circular economy, specifically for the circular economy. We are working right now with several companies like 2P Organics, who try to who want to collect and recover the urine of human urine and making it an agricultural fertilizer. Or we're working with Envie Autonomy, which discovered that you can, at least in France, if you have an handicap, even just temporary handicap, you need to buy equipment, and then if you buy a new equipment, you are fully repaid. But if you want to buy used equipment, you have to pay it on your own. So they're creating a filière of circular economy all around the medical equipment. Just giving examples. But then they are just the companies themselves, the social enterprises themselves, which are so often in the circular economy by construction. When you think about the food system, and you know that 30% of the food which is proposed in the shops or in the restaurants is thrown away. Then you have so many social businesses and social enterprises which are built around them, and then which are also our clients, and we're proud to be able to work with them. I'm thinking about Phoenix in France, or Too Good To Go in France and in Italy, and so many other Tech for Good, who create the contact about the food which is 1-2 days before being thrown away, and somebody who is going to use it. But there are so many other things also in the world of leasing, because for just another example, our subsidiary Leasing Solution have created a joint venture with 3Step IT, a Netherlands-based enterprise. I think it's a social enterprise. I haven't looked exactly in their accounts, and they are taking all the equipment that has been leased, because usually what we discover is that in the leasing world, the equipment is new each time, and then after the leasing, either is kept and then is used again, perfect. Other is just got back to the producer, who is just going to throw it away. And so we created this joint venture with 3Step IT, and now 99% of the materials, medical materials or any kind of materials which is leased by our subsidiary, is going to have a second life. Or we can also think about in the real estate industry, and in this case, our BNP Paribas Real Estate is also creating entire buildings which try to maximize the reuse of old materials, or entire buildings which are created and rehabilitated in new buildings, and creating new headquarters, like in the former Renault workshop, and we are creating new future headquarters of another company. You see, there are so many things in the circular economy, and as you are saying, we believe that it's something that has to be developed much more, and we have to create the means to create a huge world based on the reuse, refurbishment, revaluation of the things, instead of just, of course, being thrown away. So these are just ideas of what is being done. The point is, for us, it's really something that there's not one single day in which our employees are not being told, guys, what are you doing for the world? Guys, girls, what are you doing in order to enhance something that is going to create a profit for the world, and not only for us, for the society, and not only for us. So I believe it's a big change, and it's going in the right way. For sure, it's not enough, and it's not quick enough, but I believe it's a good path. Just this.
Claudia, thank you so much. So when we started to work together, I always was dreaming with Professor, for me and Professor Yunus always advised me, that imagine a P&P Paribas where 3% of the activity is pure social business. How inspiring for the 97% will be this, and how we can do this. Let me know when we reach the first percent or the first 2%. You are on the way, and thanks a lot how to inspire all generations. I know you work very hard with your board members, and I do see how beautiful your commitment yourselves to One Young World and to many other sister organizations of us, and that's where we meet, and that's where I also meet Nari, or Nari meet us in the first time. 10 years ago, Nari, you saw us, or Professor Yunus, at the One Young World, and it's around. He was a young, promising, high talent, as everybody call it, you know. Then you don't give up on this inspiration. You keep it 8 years in your heart to wait for the moment to bring it directly to the heart, to the top management of the Volkswagen concern 2018, and it makes a big boost as well. Next to this, when I'm walking with you and I'm walking around with you quite often and see you, and we listen to the best scientists and the best things, and you find the only weak point in the whole teaching and say, oh, that have to be more precisely. I love your preciseness. I love your correctness. We all need feedback in our daily work. We all need a way of a positive feedback to make the impossible possible. So we have also 2 questions for you, Nari. And let me know, let me tell that you are at Volkswagen, you are at Carriot at the moment, you're developing a soul in to create a good organization out of the software company of Volkswagen. We wish you all big luck. We know in Germany, a healthy Volkswagen is better for us than the unhealthy Volkswagen. So get healthy and get prepared and be a healthy company. Gesunde Führung, this is the right word for it. So I have 2 questions from my team. You wrote a book about mobility in Bewegung. What would you like to share about the trends in mobility and of course regenerative development? I don't have to add on something here. What are the new developments for innovative technology in the automotive and automobile industry, I say mobility sector in general, that can contribute to a climate neutral and on Hans, even positive Europe? Nari.
Thank you so much, Hans. It's so great to see you all, and especially Professor Yunus. It's such an honor to be here, and I'm really happy about that. So let me just make very few statements. I know we are a little bit running behind, but mobility is a huge passion for me, and I've been thinking a lot since we were speaking about how the past and the future are meeting and how we can really combine the best out of it. Quickly shed your attention and shed some light on the topic of mobility, because for me the whole part of mobility is basically part of the past. It has long been an industry where there's not really been a lot of change, and where social innovation and social business were not really being prominently represented within the sector. But what I think is really important, and those are the 3 points that I would like to make right now, and I hope you can take a little bit out of it, is mobility, just like finances, are one of the most important basic provisions in society. There's hardly anyone who is not being affected by mobility. Without mobility, it is really hard to be part and integrated of society. Without mobility, it is really difficult to access work and to really work on your income. So mobility has huge impact on almost every one of us worldwide. It is one of the most essential goods and services that we have, and therefore it is hugely important that we make mobility not only available, but also affordable to everyone worldwide. The second point is, right now, mobility is, in my opinion, one of the most exciting industries that we have. Why? Because it is really pulled upside down. So far, mobility has been quite stiff. There's not been any kind of innovation and not so much social businesses, as I said. And right now, the industry is completely being challenged by new competitors, by new startups, and also by new players who are really taking an accent and emphasis on social aspects, which I find to be quite interesting. And therefore, we see a whole new driver in the mobility area, which is sustainability. But again, I have to put on a downside, just as you said, Hans, I'm taking care of that, because right now we are really focusing a lot on ecological sustainability, which is most important, definitely. I just have the feeling that we are therefore forgetting the other two sides and the other two dimensions of sustainability, which is economic sustainability and social sustainability. And therefore, I really want to put on some emphasis on those 2 points, because I think it is quite important to really focus on mobility from a whole-sided point of sustainability, which acts all 3 points. And it's quite interesting. If you look at the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, it explicitly says on the goal number 11, I don't know if you're aware of that, by 2030, we want to provide access to safe, affordable, accessible, and sustainable transport systems for all. For all, I want to emphasize. Improving road safety, notably by expanding public transport, with special attention to the needs of those in vulnerable situations, women, children, persons with disabilities, and older persons. Therefore, I think it clearly states how much we still have to do regarding mobility to really improve all those aspects. And since I really wanted to make it very short and crisp, I want to conclude with one social innovation that I don't know if you know that, especially Professor Muhammad Yunus, because the social business that I'm thinking of has been founded through your inspiration, and it is called Koiki. And it's a very special social business in the mobility and transport sector, which I believe, because it has been inspired by you and your activities regarding social business. And I really hope to see a lot more social businesses in the mobility and transport sector for the future. And Koiki is really interesting because it has the goal of making parcel delivery more social. So it is called Koiki because it's focusing on the last mile problem. I don't know if you're aware of that, but in the transport and mobility sector, the very last mile is the most difficult one to reach. So basically from the last transport area to your home, the last couple of meters are the most cost effective and the most difficult ones to plan. And therefore Koiki was founded, and they are trying to put on the packages received by large logistic partners like DHL and all the other large transport systems. And they work not only with sustainable, therefore ecologically sustainable transport systems like electric vehicles, electric bikes, or but they really work with people who would not be able to find other jobs. So especially people with disabilities and refugees who have a lot of times difficulties in finding a good, well-paid job. And therefore, I think this is a beautiful example of a social business in the mobility and transport sector because it combines all 3 aspects. It is economically feasible, because it has a business model that is profitable. It is working with employees and therefore providing jobs, especially for the ones who would not receive them otherwise. And third of all, it really works on an environmentally friendly and therefore really, I think attractive social business model. And Professor Yunus, I hope you know this Koiki social business, but it is really my hope and my wish to see a lot more in this form, in this area. And that is how I want to conclude. Thank you very much.
Oh, Nari, thank you so much. So definitely we will ride the road of mobility in the future. Since we have Antonella here and BNP Paribas, one of the European biggest banks, the European car manufacturer leader and mobility provider, and Austria, we have Salzburg. As we know, we have a huge departments in Austria. So let's have the most innovative social concepts-driven business models in mobility together in Austria. Antonella, I follow up on this. As we have a good common good result, maybe a neutral ground. So Enrico, sum up, and I know we're a little bit on time ahead, but I was thinking it's very valuable to listen to all of you. I didn't want to crash it by time coding. I loved the words of Professor Yunus. Timo did a great stuff. Enrico, what was your impression of the last trio?
A very good one, I would say. I actually would like to thank Nari to bringing up Koichi, because I know them quite well since I was in the jury of the European Innovation European Bank Evaluation Committee when we gave them the prize. And I think they are originally from Barcelona, where I'm now, so that's perfect. By the way, it was very interesting panel, and I would like, of course, to congratulate Claudia for her achievements. And it's impressive how banks can actually put funds in activities that can actually shape the world. And it's very important. I really appreciated Claudia giving a lot of examples, practical examples. And this is also what Antonella did concerning policies, because I think apart from purpose, we also need how to do the things, you know, and if some pave the way and open up and tell us this, we tried this and it works. Actually, what has been done by Antonella and what has been done by BNP Paribas can be done by others. You know, so financial institutions have huge power and responsibility, I would say, in how we will shape civilization in the next years, and as well the public sector. The public sector has huge responsibility, and it needs also to innovate and push for innovation. So it has to innovate itself in one way, and it also have to push for innovation. And of course, I mean, the idea of mobility was I really loved from Nari's speech, is to remind ourselves that mobility is an essential good. It's important for human development. In all the researches we have done, also on people with disabilities and so on, it sums up that mobility is an essential part of being a community, of living, you know. So I really appreciate that technology and development are conceived in a social way. We have, you know, human-centered development. This is all about. So technology by itself will not solve if we don't keep a human perspective. So I think we can move to the other ones since we are.
Thank you. And Enrico, I think it's, before we move, it's equally important to say we have a human-centric and go to the planetary-centric, because we have to oversee next to human, but first we have to reach us before we can do it for the planet. I totally believe in this. Like we have to be sustainable and then regenerative. And this is the two lips what we have to make together on the creative power, from sustainable to regenerative, from human-centric to planetary conscience-driven aspects in the whole way, because we need more. And this is where I got my next speaker, and she is my most exciting moment, because I asked my team to bring somebody in our family, in our friend meetings, what we have every year, who I don't know, and who have a similar impact like every one of us who I know. And this is Adriana. And Adriana, thanks a lot you join us. Next to Timo, you are the new kids on the block, at least for us as the social business community. And we're keen to listen to you. And we have two questions to you. The first one is, what does a secular, climate neutral and sustainable economically look like for Europe? And the second question is, what are the challenge multi-stakeholder organizations such as the United Nations or the European Union face to make a circular and sustainability, I add on, regenerative economic as a reality? And thanks a lot to take your time. We will be a little bit late, but take your time. We record it. We want to listen to you. Equally dignity for new friends and for old friends. It's your floor.
Thank you very much, Hans, and thanks to all for the invitation. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I was wondering, oh my God, I'm the only new one here. So first of all, it's a pleasure to be sharing this panel and to be with Professor Yunus and all of you. I'm really enjoying this, I would say, multidisciplinary dialogue. I think it's great. I've been taking notes and I want to highlight a few things you have all mentioned. I think, yes, for me, COVID was a wake-up call, really to say we need to rethink the way our life stands. We need to rethink about our economy and to reset, actually, the social contract and the economic. We knew this, and I think it just made clear that what was important before is urgent today. And we really need to see how we will bring together the social, and I'm glad you're talking about the human-centric approach and the social innovation, the technological innovation, the finance one. From UNEP side, we are saying that we are facing now a triple planetary crisis. Is the climate change, is a huge biodiversity loss, and is also the increasing levels of pollution. And when we really need to look at these three things, climate, biodiversity, and pollution, it really, the main and what we say, the root cause of this crisis is our unsustainable patterns of consumption and production. The way that we have created our economy that is based in this linear economy of extracting, producing, and then just throwing away or wasting. So that's really what is important now that we change. And as you well said, and I like that you brought it back again, is putting human in the center, but also redefining our relationship with nature. So I wanted to highlight that. Now, responding to your first question, how does circular economy looks like in Europe? I wish we will really reach this point. For me, it looks brilliant. And I think circular economy is one of the very important pathways that we need. Europe is one of the regions that is more advanced in the circular economy agenda. And this will help us to bring, I would say, this systemic change that we want. Is the social innovation and transformation, is economic, and is environmental. I'm sure you all have heard the huge benefits that circular economy can bring to biodiversity. According to our scientific studies, we had the International Resource Panel that is really based on science and is looking at the potential of circular economy. We did a study looking at 3 key sectors. And circular economy could reduce by 99% the use of raw material. So imagine the benefits for biodiversity. It can also reduce around 80 to 99% the production of waste and pollution. So it's huge. We also have heard from many institutions the potential on green job generation, and this is really relevant. Let's not forget that we're still in the COVID crisis. So a study that we did in LAC, we are calculating that circular economy could generate 4.8 million new jobs by 2030. So imagine the potential also to face the economy in a inclusive way. And the other one, of course, I already mentioned the benefits for pollution, but also well-being, because we need to make sure this is also creating new opportunities for others. But sadly, if we look at the Circular Economy Gap report released this year, our economy is only 8% circular. So the challenge we have ahead is still huge. I want to say I'm very pleased to see the initiatives in Europe with the EU Circular Economy Plan, the cooperation that now they are also seeking in other regions. We are working with them in Latin America and Africa. I'm leading the Circular Economy Coalition in Latin America and supporting the one in Africa and creating dialogues there. So I think, as I say, it's very promising. Now, what are the main challenges that we are facing? I would like to talk about the UN system or UNEP, and I want to highlight 4. First of all, if we really want to have the circular economy as a pathway for a truly new economy, and many of you have mentioned the importance of being this inclusive. I think for us it's very important to remind that it cannot be just, greenwashing or just reinventing. It has to be truly inclusive. And in this, again, is looking at low-income people. And in that, I'm very inspiring from the microcredit approach of Professor Yunus. And what we are advocating here is very important that we equip well the small and medium enterprises, because big companies will be fast in moving to a circular economy. But what about the SMEs? How can we equip them? How can we do the technological transfer, the knowledge transfer? So I think that's very important. The other one, as Claudia and some other mentioned, to make sure that this innovation will be affordable, that it will not be, again, the rich consumer paying the premiums for green goods, but how can it be affordable and accessible for all? That is really aligned to the SDGs. The second challenge is innovation. We are now in the weeks of climate change, the COP26. We have heard of the challenges and really looking at a new report also launched with some partners on the sustainable lifestyles under 1.5 degree. The changes we need are huge. And in that, innovation, really social, again, I want to highlight social and technological innovation is important. But how are we going to make it happen? So we are doing a lot of awards, innovation competition with young people, with the startups, really in trying to identify this grassroots innovation, but we need to scale it up. And this, I'm happy to see all of you working on this. You have brought many important topics such as finance and investment. And I think that is key in really scaling up this innovation that we need. The third one that is also linked in making this inclusive will be the reskilling. Talking to some countries, I remember my conversation with the Vice Minister of Costa Rica, and she was saying, Adriana, if we really want to make this transition to circular economy, we need to see who will be the winners and the losers. There might be sectors that will be affected. So how can we make a compensatory mechanism? How can we make sure that those people that might lose jobs can be reskilled and then enter into the new sectors? No? How can we transfer to the gray sectors, extractive industry, to green sectors, renewable, organic agriculture, innovation, etc. Remanufacturing, for example, is very important. So reskilling is another area where we need to build more cooperation. We are working with the International Labour Organization, with the International Trade Union Confederation to see how can we scale up trainings, for this reskilling. And it's also important, we work with countries on green economy, circular economy. What is that transition that they see? What will be this compensatory or these transition measures that they can put in place for this? And the fourth one, and very much linked to our thing, is we should not forget the importance of the consumption side, the behavior, consumption, behavior change, and the new lifestyles. We hear very often people just blaming governments, the young generations, they haven't done, business should do, but we as citizens, we have a role to do. And I always say we need to change, of being a consumer and become a citizen. And that means, and I'm glad you're mentioning this, is rethinking about those common goods, our responsibility, joint responsibility to the planet, and really rethinking the basic things we are saying for years and years. I mean, do I really need this product or this service? Can I repair it? Can I do it myself? Can I buy a different one that is polluting less or is circular? It's really thinking that, and again, putting humans in the center, taking our own responsibility. And the last point, I love what Enrico said, and thank you for highlighting the importance of intergeneration dialogue and cooperation. So that's, I think, is as important as the interdisciplinary. So with this, I stop. I know we are running late, but thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Adriana. We don't running late. We're running in our next personal meeting. Thanks a lot. We have to meet up. I see. I will meet Antonella in the beginning of December. So see as we can do a follow-up as a concrete action. I just want to underline it, how we search. I asked my team, bring me a personality. I didn't ask for a woman. Bring me a personality who stays for equal dignity and fight on the global sector for the right stuff. So that's how they select you. And to underline for the people who listen to us, what are you doing? So actually at the moment, as I understand, you run, you was a program officer at the United Nations. You run at the moment currently the head and the global coordinator for Go for SDGs. So you really move us from a consumer in a citizen. And I love then everyone is a global citizen. And I do love in the planetary citizenship, there's a lot of things where we run in our meeting and where we directly follow up to have a date together with the best people out of this team. And I will also visit Timo in Leipzig end of November and see how we can be connected now and go for this 1 year. 1 month is the new year. We have 12 months to go for next year, November. And that should be, out of this group can be a real change. The great things at the end. That's always what my mother says, at the best in the end. And as we all know, if we are in the hell, you know, and I mentioned my mother already twice today, she's a very politically engaged woman, and she always said, if you see the political hell or the hell, go and put a Gänseblümchen in Germany, I don't know the English name, but a flower, huh? Vases. Yeah. Okay, to put a small flower in the hell. And one moment when we all can open up out from a hell, imagine you're blind, you're tough, you can't hear, and you're a musician. I need Jean-Claude to a master of classical music. Joseph is the leader, the conductor at the London Symphony Orchestra. He's a conductor at the other symphony orchestra in Spain. He's one of the most passionate conductor who I meet. I did 150 years of BASF with him. We wrote our own symphony, a water drop. He was the first conductor. I'm now a Beethoven ambassador. And imagine what we will be without music if we are in a disaster. So out of the disaster, out of the catastrophic issues, after an earthquake, after a loss of the most loved one, after losing a child, after stuff, who built us up? And that's always, in many, many decades, music. And this music has this incredible power to build us up once again. Poets, musicians, artists, next to the scientists, should have an equal right to the very serious scientists. If we talk about the gate between hell and heaven, then you have the scientists and you have a gate on the opposite side to go through the art and to the poets and to the stuff. Jean-Christophe, we have you with you today. You work as a poet, but we have a lot of more to do. We are also trying to organize projects on a European level. That's how we meet. You are a fighter for the best thing in us. And we have 2 questions to you from my team as well. The first one is, as someone who specializes in business development, entrepreneurship, and loves to make connections, how do you think Europe as a whole can approach a circular, sustainable economic? And I always add on biodiversity on top and regenerative. So this is where we need always to add on the sustainability aspect. What can civil society and non-profits contribute to the sustainable Europe, and tell us what art and culture are important?
Okay, so thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for Professor Yunus for creating all of this, and thank you extremely much Hans for inviting me and to this wonderful panel. So your question, well, to me, I'm usually a very talkative person, but I may answer it with one word: unity. Unity is the answer to that. All of those questions about sustainability, about the crisis, and about the ways and the road. How do we bridge and how do we pay for that? How do we connect younger generations to these problems? Just beginning with, just that they become conscious that it's not a crisis, it's becoming a chaos. I mean, it's becoming terrific. Just to add a little bit to the sensibility to the environmental crisis. A few days ago, I read a paper, quite interesting, about forest fires that happened 200 million years ago. That was the theme of the paper in Atlantica. So big that to this day we may see, okay. So, but the interesting thing about it is how was it possible that there were fire forests in Antarctica? Well, temperatures were 4 degrees higher than now, that the reference times in the 1950s. So with 4 more centigrade degrees, you get me? Okay. There were huge forests and so big forests in Antarctica, right? Now you have 2 kilometers ice, right? That there were forest fires. Now 4 degrees centigrade is double what we think we'll anyway have. So we're going into big problems, very big problems. It's not a question if, no, it's very certain. But I think it's very good news. Why? Because we have to organize. See, chaos, I mean, the humankind is made in such a way that in face of chaos, in face of difficulties, we unite, and we will unite. So in my opinion, uniting is the next thing that we have to do. But what does it mean, uniting on a global point of view? It means, well, the only sustainable way to resist is to unite at world level. I mean, and this is what, in my opinion, companies, governments, NGOs, any human being should do, is to consider the possibility, and in my opinion, the necessity to unite at world level. You see, it's, I mean, we may call it in any association of words, we might United States of the world or pan-Earth, and to begin with pan-Europa. But I think that is something that we very much have to consider. Now, another meaning of unity is what? It's the unity just Adriana just mentioned, that the change in behavior. And we have, I mean, I love this perspective to say that we have to transition from consumer to citizen. And I think it's one of the way that what we may do is to unite ourselves as one human, as an individual, with a better part of ourselves. Why? Because it's very profitable. That's how, I mean, if you try to be a poet, I mean, we all of us are poets. If you're whistling, if you're singing a song, are you a poet? See, what did Einstein? Well, he was a poet in the sense that he perhaps did, well, he was a violin player first, but he was a very intuitive person. That's how he discovered what he discovered. See, and what we do today, the reason why we have things of the sort, see, smartphones, computers, anything, I mean, that's much of the industrial reality today, is because he had intuition. And so we have to promote that connection at world level, see, unite at world, pan-European level, pan-African level, pan-American level, then pan-Earth level. That's something that we have to consider, that we have to promote, that we have to scenarize, that's why it becomes palatable. See, we always have so much stories about wars and memorials of, okay, that's fine, because we have to remember, but somehow we also have to conceive what a united human family could be, because there is only one human family. I mean, it's just that's data, that's facts, that's okay. But the same thing is about unity, inner unity. I mean, the unity to connect with the creativity part of ourselves, because it may become, I mean, it produces technological innovation, societal innovation, and that's something that, again, we do have as company, as human individuals, as even in family life, I mean, in governmental, wherever we are, we have to, I mean, it's vital. That's the way that we will be able or not to resist the chaos that we are facing. I mean, there will be chaos. I mean, 4 degrees centigrade, we're on the way, right? If all that ice melts down. I mean, water will rise immensely, not 50 centimeters, no, meters and meters, and it happened very recently in the history of planet Earth. You see, 12,000 years ago, the level of the seas was 120 meters below what it is now. Not 200 million years, no, 12,000. I mean, that's nothing. And this happened within 6,000 years at most. And in those 6,000 years, from approximately minus 12,000 years until 6,000 years, the level of the seas rose by 1 to 3 meters a century. 1 to 3 meters a century. So this happens. This has happened. It may happen again, especially because we weren't not extremely smart and intelligent over in the, I mean, even today, and we contributed very much to a natural process of heating and I mean, it's a cycle, right? But we very much improved it in very terrible ways, and we will face this. And so to face that collectively, to resist, and to we have to write a nice scenario, write a nice story, and we may do this. We are in Europe, for example, we're social. I mean, we have to consider that Europe is a social good, see? And it is, we are extremely wealthy. That's the main character. We have two characteristics in Europe. We're old. We are dwindling 6%, see, of the world population, but we're very rich. Not companies. Companies are okay, but in America, in China, they're much bigger. But individuals are extremely rich in Europe. The personal wealth, financial wealth of individuals in Europe is astonishing. It's 15 trillion euros. That's much money. And it's not about even real estate and not even the houses we made. Oh, no, it's just what we have on the bank account and all that. And that's, I mean, of course, there are extremely wealthy persons in Europe, but it's pretty well distributed, see? And so each human in Europe has the power to fund that societal innovation and creativity and unity. And this is what, okay, let's not talk about project, but that's evidently something that has to be again considered and used. I mean, and so in my opinion, to finish with my little words, it's that we have to consider. I think it's very interesting what excuse me. Okay, one of the panelists, excuse me, I do not have absolutely the memory of names, but you mentioned Timo, I think. Timo, you mentioned that we have to work with positive news. And to me, the dream of Professor Yunus is a reality by very much. See, we always try to consider what's and focus on what's not working in the world, but much of economics, much of the real economics is not financial, it's very social. See, I could elaborate on that for hours. Really, it's very interesting because we do not pay for water that falls down, right? The gravity, we do not pay for that. We do not pay for for letters to grow. How can you do not never produce letters? Letters grow and you organize the logistics about it. And you do not pay for a nice time with your friend. You do not pay for family time, family life. And much of real, economics is already a very social and a zero profit thing. All we have to do is to enlarge our understanding of what and be collectively certain that we have a collective wealth. Its name is human family. And the more we grow, we illustrate, we desire through movies, through series, through manga, through films, whatever, the podcasts, etc., the more we will become less greedy. You see, because it's a cave age, right? To want to accumulate more and more, because but when there is no, I mean, there is a world unity. I mean, it's achievable. I mean, that's what the human history has been. And so I think that all of this is a wealth of possibilities, and that together the human family may do, and every one of us may contribute to.
Thanks a lot. To open the whole space, we need this playful spirit in art and poem and everything. So let's play the World Orchestra once again. Before we close, I want to show you a playful spirit of us. I have one picture prepared, what we did last night. And to change, I always say, if you're not able to change a street, you're not able to change the world. So last night in my city, we take the citizenship and we changed 60 street names in woman names. Okay, so we put purple numbers behind it. Is another picture now there?
Yes, sorry, that's good.
Okay, I think I saw it. It's okay, you can go to big. So we changed 60 street names on 60 most extraordinary women who lives here and who did the greatest job in the city, and we replaced it to more or less 60 lousy men who didn't really need our memory anymore. So let's go and create countercultures. And thanks, we try to be really diverse as possible, and we was fully Europe, and I will go now on tour. I will meet Antonella in the beginning of September. Enrico, I come in the end of November to Italy. You're all invited to Wiesbaden. I think I would like to see the most of the people who was part of this European meeting before Christmas to have a great beginning in January, February, to know, use the time and the leadership of Professor Yunus in social business in the best way. Also, my big wish to Antonella is, next to the Kofi Annan Award, we create now the Wangari Maathai Award. So we have equal dignity for both great memories. And I thank you all and wish you a great 9th of November. And we are half hour late, but I think it was 30 minutes on a high value. And we did it as a kind of a digital diary. And Enrico, may you do the final words and say, and I say from my side goodbye and pass it over to you to Barcelona.
Okay, thank you so much. We're really late, so I will be really fast. It's been very insightful panel. I really appreciated Adriana and Jean-Christophe talks, because they also highlighted some of the topics we were discussing before. So the idea of behavior, the importance of behavior and intergenerational dialogue, and the idea of unity. And this is also some of the topics we wrote about in the last paper with Professor Muhammad Yunus, which is called Social Economy and Social Business Supporting Policies for Sustainable Human Development in a Post-COVID-19 World, which is being published now on sustainability, where we actually discuss some of these issues and the importance of having an enhanced social and environmental consciousness and behaviors connected with a new education research system that should be focused on solving problems. And these are things that actually came out during the panel. So we're very happy, because it shows unity, of mindsets in the people around, even from very different backgrounds. Some of these people we haven't met them, except you, Hans. You know everyone, but I didn't know Adriana, but hearing her speak, I see, okay, we are from the same community, So this is, for me, it's very beautiful. And we always focus a lot on the problems, and that as humans, we are destroying the world, which is true, actually, we are doing it. But I always like to remember that we were also able to create very beautiful things. I mean, I come from Florence, so I'm very proud of the city and art and so on. So we should always remember that we are also able to create very beautiful things. So why we are able to create them in art? and we are not able to create them in economics. So that's how I want to leave everyone, with the idea that we have to create beautiful things, also in areas which we usually think they're not so beautiful, like economics and business and so on. So thank you, everyone. And I hope we will see each other very soon in person. Thank you all.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Ciao.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.